Hello everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome to a new playthrough on the channel. After a very busy Memorial Day weekend that saw us battle and ultimately lose to Yig in Arkham Horror 2nd Edition, we're going to step into a more traditional fantasy environment. We're going to revisit a familiar face on the channel as we debut Massive Darkness 2 from CMON Games. Our goal here is to complete the scenario that we're up against. Now, we lose if the scenario has a special way to just lose, or if we need to resurrect someone, but we can't. Back in 2021, we played the original a couple of times, but never did much with it. This game is set 10 years after the original, but is very much the same vibe as the original. I'm still learning it a little bit in this video, so we're going to keep it simple and stick with the tutorial scenario. Also, advance apologies if I'm flipping through the rules constantly. Anyway, let's go meet our... First up, let's go through our scenario. So we're playing the tutorial scenario today. Our goals here in order are to gather the ritual scroll and close the rift. Special rules to note. I'll bring the book up a little bit closer so we can see. The scroll. In order to close the rift, heroes will need the scroll, which is represented by the color side up objective token. Any hero may spend one movement point standing in the objective token's zone to gather the scroll. Take the token as a reminder. All heroes gain 5 experience. And closing the rift. Any hero holding the scroll may spend one action while standing on the gray objective token's zone to destroy the rift. There's the map here. That'll make a little more sense when we get over to the board. And it looks like we got everything laid out. I'm just making one last check on that. So we'll detail everything on that when we move over to the board. But for now, let's go meet our heroes. Here's our first hero, Urk the Shaman. She's got 3 mana and 4 health, and I put it on as I take it. That's just because that's what I'm used to doing from the Arkham Horror files. As far as special abilities go, at the start of her turn, she'll increase any element by 1, and I'll explain that more when we get into the tracker. When we get into Shadow, because once again, light and dark, spaces with light and dark are a thing. So when we're in Shadow and we roll that face on the Shadow die, you may increase any element to max. There's her mini. I'll go ahead and move that over to the board, the starting space. And as far as the items she's got, first up we have the Ash Wand. It's a one-handed item. You attack magically with 1 yellow die. With magic, you can be in the same space, I think up to 1 space away. Let me just double check that. Yes, magic range is 0 to 1. And on an attack, if we spend 1 mana, we get +1 wound, which is what the sword is. And then both characters have the same battered leather armor to start with, defending with a blue die. We've got the leveling track over here, but we'll detail that more when a character actually levels up. As far as starting skills go, as far as starting everything else goes, she's got a mana potion to start with, which is just an item you can use anytime for +2 mana. And then as far as her starting spells, we've got basic spells for her. On an attack, we can spend a fire and a wind to get +1 to roll +1 orange die. Spend a water and a nature to heal 2. And then her starting skill is Firestorm level 1. Spend 2 fire and an air. Roll 1 orange die. Deal wounds equal to the number of swords to each enemy in magic range. +1 per fire token. Max 3 on the target. And then we'll take a look at the element track, preferably without sending the tokens flying. The first time each element reaches max, you may spend all of that element to flip the respective token and gain its ability until the end of the quest. So if we flip fire anytime we attack, we get +1 yellow die. On attack, if we flip water, +1 move the defender 1 zone. If we flip air, move +1 movement point. And if we flip nature, spirits have +1 health. And I believe you can spend a mana for +1 of them. I'm not sure about how that is read, and we only sent nature flying, so that's pretty impressive there. Like I said, I'll detail leveling more when we come back to it. You can see in shot here the one Lightbringer token, because we are going to be using 2 heroes. So if we need to spend that a second time, we'll lose the game. So looks like we get half based on the number of heroes rounded up. So that's it for Urk. We've moved her over to the board. Let's go meet our second hero. Our other hero is Sir Ronan the Paladin. There's his mini. He'll be doing everything in purple. We'll move him over to the board as well. Take a quick look at his card. 4 mana, 6 health. Once again, I'll put it on as I spend and take it. On attack, we can ignore 1 claw mark, which is basically a guaranteed damage back from the enemy. And then when we roll that on a shadow space, every hero in a consecrated zone performs a free recover action after this combat. And then he's got a rusty sword for his starting item. 1 hand slot, and on an attack, you can re-roll a die. Melee attacks with a yellow, and he's also got the battered leather armor where we defend with a blue. He's got a health potion to start with, which lets him heal 3. His starting skill is lifelink 1. The paladin may take wounds instead of another hero in this consecrated zone. Then for the paladin dashboard, at the start of the round, you may bless 1 skill until the end of the round. Flip that card. For 1 mana, place a consecration token in a zone in the line of sight that has no other consecration token. You may remove it anytime for free. If we place the green consecration zone, you get a reroll in combat. The blue consecration, heroes that start a move action in this zone gain +1 movement point. And on the red, heroes that start their activation in this zone may heal 1. So we'll probably end up needing that, especially with Urk in the scenario. So that's both of our heroes. Now let's move over to the board. Okay, I think I like this shot just fine. So we do need to finish a little bit of setup here. Let me see if I can find it. So we need to draw a card from the level 1 to 2 mob deck and place the corresponding mob minis with a leader plus a number of minions equal to the number of heroes, which in our case will be 2. So mob level 1 to 2, here we are. So we start off, and that'll be in this space with a mob of demons. They'll need 1 token, 3 health, defend with a blue die. Combat when they roll a hand like that. Attacking or defending hero discards 1 mana. So let me see if I can find these demons. I believe it's these ones. So we need 2 of these. And then our leader demon should be this one right here. That's sure what it looks like to me. Alright, so they go there to start, which is unfortunately right on top of the scroll that we need to get here to close the rift. So there's those 2. Trying to keep them from getting entangled in each other is not the easiest thing to do. Then we need to draw a card from the 1 to 2 mob item deck. And right now we only care about the die it provides. Magical dice. Oh, that's delightful. So I'll put that there. And then we draw a treasure token and we'll place it on there. So this will be a treasure that we'll get when we defeat the entire mob. We seeded the bag with all of the greens and 5 of the blues. And we placed, that looks like a common treasure, I think. Yes, that's a common treasure, so that'll go up there. Is there anything else we need to do here? Draw a treasure token from the bag. I think we got all that. Oh, I do want to explain the darkness track. That is a new feature in Massive Darkness 2. Let me see. So basically, if I remember correctly, every turn you're going to advance along this darkness track. Then once you hit the certain level, you'll do the thing on there. So at 3, let me bring this up. So at levels 3 and 9, you'll spawn new roaming monsters. 5 and 7, you'll spawn 2 new mobs at the mob space. The roaming monsters will spawn up here at the roaming monster portal. And then those, you add the respective treasure to the bag. So darkness starts off at level 1. Yep. Okay, that is everything set up. So let's move into our first round, and we'll start off with Urk as our first player. Before we jump into this game, I do want to mention that the true solo rules that Simon suggested for this game, I did not like those at all. So the true solo rules for this game were that you had to play one hero, but you got 4 actions, had to treat everything else as if you had 2 players, 2 heroes. So I did not like that at all. So instead you're looking at that at a point like, well, why wouldn't you just play 2 heroes instead? So that's what I'm doing here. I was meaning to get a couple of practice games in with 2 heroes before this hit the channel, but I just kind of ran out of time with other stuff I wanted to get to the channel. But now we're going to try it with 2 heroes. So for her first action, Urk is going to use a move action. So she's going to move 1 space and then spend her other movement point to open the door. So, of course, we will need to spawn a door. We'll need to draw a door card for this chamber. Let's see what we've got here. We find Twin Chambers. After revealing this chamber, open the closest closed chamber and reveal it as well. Don't draw a card for the second chamber. We only have the 1 chamber in here, though, so it looks like we are all clear on that. We don't have to spawn anything in there. Let's see. Then for action 2, I think she'll move in, and she should be able to spend a point to grab the loot, a movement point to grab the loot. Let me just double check that. Yes. So interact with objects. For each treasure in the revealed chamber, draw a... Okay, we did that already. That was part of setup. Okay, so yeah. They pick up the treasure, draw 1 item from the item deck that matches the treasure token. Oh, we were supposed to draw that, I think, at the... Oh, yeah, draw 1 treasure token from the bag. So I guess we'll be drawing... So we'll move in, and then we'll draw a treasure token out of here, see what we get. Alright, she finds a common treasure, so let's see what Urk draws out of that. So her common treasure, if it wants to focus, come on, is a monk's robe. Defense, she gets +1 mana, and defends on a blue die. So we'll trade out the battered leather armor for the monk's robe, and then for action 3, that comes off the board. Then for action 3, she's immediately going to nope out, so 1-2. And then Urk's done, so I'll tip her over to the side just to indicate that she's done. And then we'll move over to Sir Ronan. So for Sir Ronan, he will move... Do I want to send him in, or am I going to try to bring... I think the plan here is I'm going to try to bring Urk in and try to pincer them in. So Ronan will move 1-2 for 1. Then his action will be 1. Can he spend the movement points to interact with an object with enemies in there? Because if he can... Yeah, it doesn't say anything about not being able to pick it up. So, I mean, there might be a section deeper in the rulebook about that. Additional rules, that's not what I want to see. Hero classes. Yeah, it's not telling me anything about how I can't interact with objects on my space when there are enemies in the space, even if he's about to get hammered. So I think we will pick up the scroll right away, which will give both heroes 5 experience, which means they'll both be leveling up in the first level up phase, which I'm not supposed to be adjusting that yet. I'm just adjusting the level right now. Then for action 3, does he want to attack? He might as well. So he'll attack with a yellow, and he's in darkness, so we'll get the shadow die, which means we'll bring the dice tower into shot. I think I'll put it here. I don't think I like that spot for it. Let's see about putting it over here, and maybe a quick adjustment of the camera. That'll work. Alright, so we'll grab the dice cup. And I believe we put in 1 enemy die per... I just need to double check how these attacks work, but I think we put in 1 enemy die per enemy in there. Assembling the dice pool. Gather the quantity and type of dice. So yeah, he's got a... So he gets a yellow die that we'll put in the cup. And I think that's it. So if the attacker is a hero in shadow, but he is in shadow, as you can see, without a light source, so we do get the shadow die as well. All the defenders' defense dice, they defend with a blue. So there's the blue die going in. And 1 enemy die for each minion in the mob, so we get 2 enemy dice as well. Right, the number of minions is tied to the number of heroes. Duh. Okay, so that's all of our dice, which means we can give this a roll, and since he's attacking, we'll take a quick look at the dice. So each dice has some number of swords and special what I guess I'm calling BAM effects. Some items will have an effect that when you roll that icon, they'll do special things. Similarly, on the shadow die, we saw this face on both of their cards with special abilities. That will be the special effect that'll go off. Then on the enemy dice, we've got these hand effects which trigger special abilities, and the scratches which are automatic damage back. And then the blue dice have some amount of shields on them, so we don't want to see, along with 2 blank faces. So ideally we want to see a lot of swords and no shields. And we'll be doing that damage to the mobs. So let's go ahead and see what happens. A lot of bubkus. So we got the 2 BAM effects, but we didn't do anything with those. 2 shields, and then the hand effect. Sorry. Got a little bit of a frog in my throat, apparently. I think we resolved each of those. Yeah, so it looks like... So he gets to ignore 1 scratch, but we didn't roll any. So we rolled 2 scratches. Attacking your defending hero discards 1 mana. So essentially, Sir Ronan, once I find my mana tokens... Sir Ronan is losing 2. Remember, when I'm putting it on the card, they're losing it. When I take it off, they're gaining it. So that's unfortunate for Sir Ronan. Unfortunately, that'll do it for his turn. He is very much in a bad way. So I'm hoping this pincer plan works out a little better. But that's it for the enemy. That's it for the hero phase. Now we go into the enemy phase. So the enemy performs 2 actions. With each action, the mob attacks a target within its range if possible. So the range for this is a magical attack. Yikes, these demons are attacking with... I believe the attacks work the same way for the enemies as well, right? Yes. Oh, delightful. So, now it's their turn to attack, so they'll attack with 2 yellow. They don't get the shadow die. 2 enemy dice, and we defend with a blue. Oh, this is going to be problematic, I'm sure. Let's see what happens, though. Delightful. So, he can ignore that on attack, right? Yes, but he's defending now, so he'll take 3 damage back. So we'll take 3 damage. So there's 3s in here. Nope, I think it's just 1, 5s, 10s, 50s, and 100s. So we'll need 3... We'll need 3 singles for that. Joy, joy. Alright, so they attack again, I believe. Yes. So we'll run that roll back, I guess. This is probably going to be a short scenario from the looks of it. Yeah. So he'll discard another mana because of the hand icon in there. And then he cancels out... He rolled 1 shield, so he cancels 1 of those out. But he's still going to take 3 damage back because he rolled... Because they also rolled a sword and 2 scratches. So he's already been knocked out. Yeah, that is not good at all. Right, so... Okay, so that brings us into the level up phase. Okay, so I'm trying to figure out if the heroes level up while they're knocked out. They probably don't, but... I don't see a reason that they do. Doesn't look like it, so heroes must spend... Yeah, I'm not sure how that interacts when they're knocked out. So they don't look to be affected by anything. So I don't think they actually level up when they're knocked out. I'm sure I'll get a clarification on that in the comments down below, or I'll go track one down from the geek. But Urk definitely will level up. So she'll move up to level 2, which will give her +1 maximum health. And we'll put another rare treasure into the bag. Give that a quick mix up. And then she gets a level 2, she gets a level 2 skill as well. So we'll take a look at her choices. Level 2. And I think that is everything that she has to choose from. So Urk's first level 2 skill choice is a Flame Spirit, spending 2 fire and 2 nature, and I forgot to increase an element, so I'll pretend I increased her fire. I did derp on that. Flame Spirit 1, 2 fire and 2 nature to place Flame Spirit 1 in your space. And I bet this is like going to be a Frost Spirit for 2 water and 2 air to place Frost Spirit 1 in your zone. 2 frost, 2 water, 2 nature. Place Frost Spirit 1 in your zone. So I'm going to take Flame Spirit 1. Okay, then that will do it for the level up phase. For the darkness phase, we just advanced darkness. Let me tip the camera down so you can see the darkness track once again. We just advanced the darkness to level 2. Nothing new happens, but we're definitely going to be in a bad way starting the round. So with that, we'll move over to a new round, and Sir Ronan will be our first player. With Sir Ronan knocked out, we will have to spend our Lightbringer token to bring him back. So here's our Lightbringer token. We do get a benefit from it, though, so we get to reroll a die. Which way does that go? I think it goes like that, but we do get a reroll now in combat, but we have to be aware that if we get defeated again, where we need to use the Lightbringer token and can't, scenario is just over. So for his first action, he's going to spend an action to recover, which will let him recover 2 health. I don't see a restriction about not being able to do that in an enemy space. Then is it an action to consecrate, or is that just a... We don't have a skill to bless. So, actually we do. So at the start of the round, he's going to bless his... At the start of the round, he's going to bless his lifelink. Where in combat, he gets to ignore a wound. So we'll flip that over, flip that back at the end of the round. And I'm trying to see if it's a mana to consecrate a space, because consecrating with green right now is probably a very good idea. Let's see. During their turn, before or after an action. Okay. So we're going to spend his last mana before his first action. Oh no, that was his first action. Now we're going to spend his last mana to place the green consecration in his space. That'll give anybody who attacks there a reroll in combat. Well, a second reroll because we have the flipped Lightbringer token as well. So for his second action, we're going to run the attack back. So we need 2 enemy dice, the blue die, and he attacks with a yellow. I was planning on getting him a shield, but obviously that's not working out. We'll give this a roll. Okay, so he gets to ignore the scratch this time while he's in combat. The hand does nothing because we don't have a mana to discard. Excuse me, still have a frog in my throat. But the 3 swords let him take out one of the mobs, and that will one of the demon minions, and I believe that gives him an experience. So at least now we're getting somewhere on that. Okay, yeah, the attacking hero gains 1 experience. So Sir Ronan is actually up to 6 experience. Pending that lookup, in fact, I'm going to make a quick note of it here. Pending the lookup of do KO'd heroes level during the level up phase. For the video, I ruled that it doesn't make sense for them to, because they're already knocked out, so they wouldn't get the benefit, but I could be wrong on that. So, action 3, I think we'll run the attack back again, and he's still in shadow. Then what was his shadow effect? Every hero performs a free recover action after this combat. Okay. Let's see, his first reroll will be to reroll the defense die. And then his second reroll will be on the shadow die. Okay, that's a lot more like it. So we take out the other So we take out the other minion, which will give him another experience. So bring him up to 7. And then that will put 2 wounds on the leader. So we'll take 2 wounds and put them up on the leader. And then that will do it for Sir Ronan, who should now survive the round. So bringing us over to Urk, we'll move her for action 1, 1, 2. Then action 2, she'll open the door and step in, mostly so we can use the reroll there. Plus we're spawning a roaming monster on darkness, or on the next darkness phase, rather than a mob. Then action 3, she'll attack, mostly because I want the benefits of both the... And once again, I forgot to increase her element, so I'll increase her air. Mostly so I can plan on using her attack spell to get +1 orange die. So yeah, action 3 will go ahead and do that. So she attacks with a yellow die. She attacks with a yellow die. She'll get the shadow die because she's in darkness. Defend with the mob leader defends with a blue die. I don't think we get any enemy dice because we're after the leader now. Let me look. Doo-doo-doo. Gather all the defenders. And 1 enemy die for each minion. So, with a leader and... Okay, so without the minion in the space... Okay, so with no minions in the space, we don't get any of the enemy dice. So, actually using that spell might be overkill, especially with 2 rerolls. So I think we'll just go without it, without the reroll. Or without the attack spell. Okay, so we do have 2 rerolls. I want to see if I can reroll the... Let's reroll the attack die first. Yeah. See if we can get some more swords. Because we do get the shadow effect, which will immediately increase... Let me increase 1 element to max. And then we'll roll the defense die. Okay, that works. So because we rolled the shadow face, we do get to increase her element to maximum. So we'll increase her fire to max, and then we'll immediately spend all of it to flip it and gain the fire ability, which gives me +1 yellow die when attacking. That's from the shadow die. And then the blue die didn't have any shields on it, so the 1 sword is enough to take out the demons, which I believe, okay. So the leaders give, okay, so it is a mob leader, so all heroes gain 2 experience. So Urk will gain another 2 experience, which I'm doing off camera, come on. And then Ronan will gain 2 experience as well. So now he'll be alive to level up this time during the level up phase. Okay, then that was all 3 of her actions as well, so she's done. Now we go into the enemy phase, but there are no enemies to deal with. Actually, before we do that, we'll discard the demons, and then Urk will get a common treasure out of the deck. So now Urk will find... hopefully a better item for one of us. Another monk's robe, which I could probably actually give over to Ronan on a trade action next round. So yeah. I'll bring the dice tower out of the way for the time being because we won't need it. Reorganize these for the time being. Alright, so no enemies to go through. Level up phase, Sir Ronan actually will level up this time. which will put another rare treasure into the bag. So we'll give that a quick mix-up. Which will also give him +1 max health, so his is now 7. Urk's is 5. And then we get a level 2 skill as well. So his choices for level 2. Okay, looks like those are his 2. Okay, so first up we have Echoing Hallow 1. This consecration also affects one other adjacent zone. We'll place the consecration token between the 2 chosen zones. It occupies both. Or Divine Protection 1. Heroes may target this zone, if possible, to attack an enemy in another consecrated zone. And I should be looking at the blessed side as well. So the Echoing Hallow 1 blesses into heroes moving from the affected zones ignore reaction damage. So in terms of reaction damage, think attack of opportunity. And immediately place this consecration in a zone in line of sight for free. Heroes may target this zone, if possible, to attack an enemy in another consecrated zone. So let's go with Echoing Hallow 1, which will give us a little bit of freedom to spread out, I think. Okay, so that's all done. Now we advance to Darkness. So we're advancing to the level 3, which will spawn a roaming monster. And I believe it's based on the highest level hero in the dungeon. Let me see where I can find that, because there's a section about that. Here we go. There's a section about that in here. I'm just double checking. Where is it? According to the dungeon level, that's what I'm trying to... Oh, here we go. The dungeon level influences the type of enemies and items that spawn during a quest. The dungeon level is equal to the level of the hero with the highest level. For example, if 3 heroes are level 2 and a 4th is level 3, the dungeon level is 3. So we've been at 2 ever since Urk leveled up. Not that it matters, because we're pulling out of the 1 to 2 deck. That should be gone. Those should be discarded. Alright, so our first roaming monster is Etheria Undead Queen. Let me go fish her out from this mess. She's holding, I believe, this looks like her. She's going to spawn up here. Looks like we need 2 treasure tokens plus a rare treasure as well. Health is 1 per hero, so 8. Defends with a blue and a black die. And special rules to note. If there is more than 1 hero in line of sight, Etheria attacks each hero in line of sight. Resolve each attack separately. If there's only 1 hero in line of sight, Etheria attacks that hero with +1, I believe that's orange die. On an attack when she rolls that, add 1 minion to each mob in the dungeon if possible. In melee, she attacks with the yellow die. Range, which is anything she can see, she attacks with 2 yellow and a black die. Delightful. And has 8 health. And spawning a roaming monster, how does that... Does that work any differently? Would we get an item out of that, is my question. We probably would have to pull an item out of that, but I'm not completely sure. Let's see here. There should be a section about 11, 24, 26. Draw a number of treasure tokens and place them on the card. Okay, so we do need to draw the 2 treasure tokens out of here. So let's see what we draw for when we defeat Etheria. We might not need to, though. Okay, so there's 1, 2. Which means we'll get a rare and a common treasure when we defeat her. Okay. Let's see. Heroes that start their activation in this zone may heal 1. We might actually be able to get there this turn, but we might not be able to survive that. But alright, so we increase the darkness. We'll move over to Urk as our new first player. And we'll start into round 3. Alright, so at the start of the round, we're going to bless the Echoing Hallow 1. So heroes moving from the zone ignore reaction damage, and the consecration affects one other zone. He will then pick up the combat consecration, and then he's got no mana left, so we can't place anything yet. But for Urk's action 1, she's going to trade the Spare Monk's robe she's got over to Sir Ronan, who will immediately equip it, because of course he will. Then action 2, I don't think we can afford to make a beeline for it right now. I think we want to draw her. I think we want to try to draw her to us. So, yeah. So I think for action 2, I'm just going to move Urk 1, 2, and then action 3 so we don't get attacked. I think we'll just move... Actually, we forgot to increase her elements again, so we'll increase her... We'll increase her fire again. If we can take out Etheria, we're going to have a lot of time. And then for Urk, we'll move her down 1 more. Let's see, 1, 2, 1, 2. No, that's a wall. Never mind that plan. I think we're going to have Ronan recover, though. So he's going to spend an action to recover 2 mana. Only 2. Then he is going to... I think I'd rather try to land on her like a 1,000-pound bomb, especially since our next darkness spawn isn't until darkness... Let me tip the camera down so you can see. Since our next mob spawn isn't until darkness level 5, if I can land on her like a 1,000-pound bomb, I think I want to. So then he will move 1, 2 for action 2. And then action 3, he'll move down 1. Mostly, like I said, so I can try to draw her to us. So that will do it for... That'll do it for both of their turns. Now we go into the enemy phase. So she's trying to attack, but she can't, so she moves 1. Tries to attack, but can't because there's nobody in line of sight, so she moves 1, looking for us. Alright, that will do it for the enemy phase. Level up phase, nobody's able to level up. So darkness tips us down up to level 4. And now we're adding another... Now we're adding another rare treasure to the bag. And we're giving the treasure bag a mix-up. We'll put that off to the side. Then we'll go into round 4 with Sir Ronan being our first player. I know I'm going to need to land on Etheria like a 1,000-pound bomb. The questions are where and how. I'm expecting the where is going to be up at this space right here. The question is, how do I get to it? And there are 2 questions here, because if I end up in this space, like I'm expecting Ronan to end up, he's going to get jumped when the mob level... When the darkness gets to level 5, because we'll be spawning a new mob there. I don't think we're quite ready to go in and attack. I especially don't want to take an attack from range because, well, the problem is I've got a dilemma on my hands here because I don't particularly want to take... I want them both to get... I don't want to get attacked from range if I can avoid it, but she's going to be hard to hit. So at the start of the round, we'll leave the... I think we'll leave Echoing Hallow blessed. Is the plan just recover, move to Etheria so we get attacked from melee rather than a deadly range attack? I think that's probably a better idea. See, I think Sir Ronan will recover for 2 mana. Then he'll move 1, 2, move 1, and forfeit his second move. It's not a great plan, but the idea here is I just want him, as I don't want them both to get rocked. Right, and then Urk, I think, will do the same thing with her. So she'll move 1, 2, move 1, and then she's actually got an attack option available to her if I want it. And I forgot to increase her. We'll increase her air again, but I think I will attack. So she'll get a yellow die to attack with. We're not in shadow, so we don't get the shadow die. We do get the yellow. And then she defends with a blue and a black, and I'll use her basic spell to give me +1 orange die. Basically, the orange die is just a stronger version of the... Come on. It's just a stronger version of the yellow die, so we'll see what happens here. On attack, I can spend a mana to get +1 wound from +1 sword from the Ash Wand. So we'll bring the dice tower right here, and we'll give this a roll. And did I get a die stuck in there, or is there one hiding? No, I think that was everything, actually. So on the hand, we had one minion to each mob in the dungeon, but there are none right now. Those two cancel out, and then Urk will spend a mana to get an extra sword. So she's doing 2 swords to... She's actually doing 2 wounds to Etheria. So we'll put those on there, or on Etheria. And then that will do it for the turn. Etheria now gets to attack. So since there's more than one hero in line of sight, both of them are there, she'll attack each one separately. And because we moved into melee, she'll get the yellow die. We'll resolve the attack against Sir Ronan first. He will defend with a blue die. Hopefully we won't get rocked here on this. I think that's it. And then we'll run that back against Urk once we get done with this. Cancels out. And then the same thing against Urk. She takes 1 damage, but I can deal with that. There should be another single in here somewhere. Yep, there we are. Alright, so there's a single going on Urk. Max health for her is 5, for Ronan it's 7. Okay, so that's it for the enemy phase. Level up phase, nobody has enough experience to level up right now. Then we go into the darkness phase, which advances to darkness level 5, and then we get a fresh mob. We'll tip the camera up so we can see that the mob is going right here. We need another level 2 mob, so we find Oh, that's an item, but we'll leave that actually, so we'll get the yellow die. Now let's actually draw the mob, derp. We get a mob of fallen angels. We need a treasure and they have 2 health. Defend with 2 blue dice, and on an attack of 1 hand, defender loses a shield. So the fallen angels are... these guys probably... looks like it. So we need 2 of those, and then where's the leader? I think this is the leader. Alright, so we've got the 2 minions. And the leader. I forgot, I'm actually starting to remember how much I had enjoyed Massive Darkness 2 in the past. Okay, what did I do with... oh, I had the card over here. So that is... come on. Why are you not focusing? There we are. So that's a melee attack. So that's important to know. If we can happen to get out of where they'll be able to reach us in melee range, we'll be able to scoot in a hurry. But that's it for round 4. We're about to go into round 5, and Urk will be our first player. Before we start the next round, I realized that Urk should have had an extra yellow die on her attack against Etheria from having her fire maxed out. So this is basically just free extra damage, because Etheria didn't roll any shields to speak of. So Urk does a free extra 2 damage to Etheria, so she's already at half health. We'll move those up there. So the basic plan here is just Gitfo. And actually we do have a BAM effect on her track, so when she rolls a BAM, she'll get to add 1 to any element, which reminds me, I will actually remember at the start of her turn to max fire. As for Sir Ronan, we'll leave the Echoing Hallow Blessed, and it looks like that's an open action effect, so he'll spend a mana. So he'll spend a mana to place the Combat Consecration once again in the space with Etheria. Then for Urk's first action, I did remember to increase her fire by 1 this time. So we're going to attack using a yellow die. She'll get an extra yellow, I'll remember this time. Etheria defends with a blue and a black. And then we'll spend her fire and air for plus the orange die. So there's all of the dice going in. We need 4 net 4 wounds to take Etheria out. Okay, so we will... let's go ahead and re-roll the orange die. And we'll re-roll the blue die. I'm getting a little bit greedy here, but if I can roll that into no shields, then we can probably just end the scenario right here. That knocked that die. That was a sword. So we net 1 shield. We do have to add actually we still have, I think we still have a reroll because we used the Consecration reroll. And then we have a Lightbringer reroll. So we'll try again on the blue die. That turns into 2 shields, so I did get a little bit greedy. But we do have to resolve the hand first, so we add another Fallen Angel minion to the... So we add another Fallen Angel minion to the mess of mobs we have here, but we deal net 2 damage to Etheria. So we have 2 wounds, so we have 2 wounds left on the Undead Queen to deal with. And then we did have I thought we had a BAM in there originally. We must not have, but I thought we did. Anyway, we'll run the attack back for action 2. Unfortunately, I can't get the spell again. We do get 2 yellow dice, and we have the blue and the black dice as well for her defense. And we still have 2 rerolls. Okay, so I think we can deal with that. We'll take the damage from the scratch. So there's the damage from the scratch. Then we've got a BAM, which I'll use to bump her fire. And then we've got a net 2 wounds. So we defeated Etheria, which means we get... I believe that means everybody gets 4 experience. Here we go. All heroes gain... The attacking hero gains 1 experience. So Urk will gain 1 experience, and then another 4 because we took out a mob, because we took out a roaming mob. Ronan will gain 4 as well, going up to 8. She comes off the board, and Urk gets 2 rare treasures and a common treasure. Watch as they're all melee treasures. So let's see what Urk finds. She finds Thieves' Scarf and Shadow attack. We get 2 rerolls. Then for her other rare treasure, she gets a Demonic Mask. Attack, take a wound to ignore a black die. And then on a common treasure, she finds a Quiver, ranged attack, +1 yellow die. Not particularly useful stuff for her. But I think the more important part is as we move the dice tower out of shot, we can see as we zoom out that we should be able to complete the scenario right here. So that was Urk's second action. So for her third, she'll move down here, and then she's completed with her turn as well. She's completed with her turn. As for Sir Ronan, he will move 1, 2 for action 1, and 1 and spend the movement point for action 2, which I believe just seals the rift and ends the scenario. Yes, any hero holding the scroll may spend 1... Oh, it has to be 1 action, so it's not just a movement point, so it would have to be his second... So it would have to be his third action, which it will be. So he'll destroy the rift, and that will complete the scenario. So let's move all the way back up top for my final thoughts on Massive Darkness 2. I kept the scenario short because I wanted to check the logistics of shooting this game and kind of get the feel for relearning Massive Darkness 2. But this game is definitely going to be Sunday content. Don't be deceived by the length of this video. If I feature this one again, it will be as Sunday content. There's just... To me, some of the scenarios have potential to run too long, and shooting them is going to be a nightmare anyway, because some of these scenarios are going to get pretty big, but I think I like these better for... I think I like Massive Darkness 2 better for Sunday content. It might end up being a background campaign, but I haven't completely decided on that yet. But that will do it for this playthrough of Massive Darkness 2. And I usually don't try to make a habit of these first or mostly learning playthroughs, but as I mentioned at the top, I've been learning a lot of other stuff, so this one kind of slipped through the cracks a little bit. I'm sure I still messed a few things up, but I was living in the rule book for this one, as I usually do when learning these games. So if I made any mistakes, let me know constructively, please, in the comments section down below. Anyway, let's wrap this video up. Wednesday we're headed back to Normandy as we meet Rommel for a session of Field Commander Rommel. And next week we'll stay with another CMON game, but we'll head for a far more familiar universe as we play Cthulhu, Death May Die. Thank you for watching the video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care everyone.